Zealand. Hope you're having a super fantastic sparkling day. Welcome to Porch Light Letters podcast number 2351. How much should you rely on AI? This is a great question. But first, updates. So I had work that got up early this morning. Actually woke up about 3:30, didn't get back to sleep. Tui started around 4. It was okay. It's okay. It's I have to tell you, waking up to hearing the Tui with their calls and stuff is just magical, and I bounce out of bed once they start going. And got ready, had early meetings this morning, got that done, got the chat done, and then got stuck in on the chat. It was a very steady day today. There wasn't a lot of downtime today. And then Mum and Dad showed up just after 1:00 to help with the curtains because my brother and sister-in-law had some blackout curtains, and the curtains that were in the guest bedroom were like daylight when the next door neighbor had his outside light on, so his front porch light on. So now we have a blackout curtain, and we actually found the blackout curtain took up the whole window, so we just put one curtain up. Did that, fixed the curtains that were in the master bedroom by putting it, because there were places where the hooks were missing, and so it was kind of a little saggy. And for those here in New Zealand, we have curtain tape across the top, and it's where you can insert hooks that go into specific railings that have these little eyes that you put the hooks in, so you've got hooks and eyes. And we fixed up a pair of curtains in the living room, and then Dad did a couple of bits and pieces around the place. Oh, and I should have brought them in here. He made me 2 cutting boards and 2 wooden spatula thingies for my I'm going to have to show you his work. He does beautiful woodwork. And so he made me these 2 cutting boards, and so I got to use one of them for lunch today, because I suddenly realized I haven't had lunch yet. So I sat down and had a quick bite, made myself a quick sandwich and had that for lunch. But Mum and Dad left like 2 minutes ago, so hence the reason I'm on late today. So we're on to today's topic. How much should you rely on AI? How much do you think you should rely on AI? That's an interesting question. The question is not whether to use AI, it's how much. AI is best for drafting, organizing, repurposing. Strategy, judgment, and values still remain human-led. They cannot come up with strategy, judgment, and values. That's got to be human-led and decided. So it's still in your voice. Over-reliance creates disconnect with content. Absolutely. If you keep overusing it, people are going to notice that this doesn't quite sound like you, and they're going to be noticing a slight change in voice. So they're going to notice that, and they're going to notice total train of thought just went out the window. But anyway, so over-reliance creates disconnected content. It really does. If you over-rely on it, you've got to have that human contact, that human factor in there. If you cannot stand behind it, do not publish it. If you're just going, oh, I just need an article on and you don't even proofread it or anything else, and you go and put it out there, if you can't stand behind it, do not publish it. If you're just creating articles and thinking, yep, that looks fine, and sticking it out there, there could be a missing fact in there that could totally screw up any trust that you've built up with people. So make sure you can stand behind what you publish. If you can't stand behind it, don't publish it. It's as simple as that. Balance keeps content authentic and effective. So you yourself have to find that balance on how much you rely on AI and how much you put into it, based on everything we've talked about for the last 16 days. It's your benchmark of what you have to determine, that how much you're going to rely on AI and how much you're going to have input on it. Make sure you have input on AI, because if you don't have input on AI, then it can screw up your content, and it can screw up. There was a time there where I was just sort of like, oh, I'll just get AI to do this, and I wasn't putting my human factor in there. I wasn't putting the sparkle factor in there, and it showed. My numbers for viewing on things dropped dramatically. And I was like, oh, why is this happening? And so I went and asked ChatGPT, why is this happening? And they go, well, you haven't put any sparkle, it came back and told me I hadn't added my sparkle. And I was like, oh, that was kind of a wake-up call. So when you're creating the content and stuff, yes, you can have AI help you create the content, but make sure it is in your voice, that it has your sparkle value, or whatever you call your sparkle value. Mine's sparkle value. It's just got to have the sparkle. And I tell it to, sparkle it up. Let's add some sparkle. When it comes back with stuff, it's just sort of like, that is so, and I go back and I will tell ChatGPT, that is so boring. Where's the sparkle factor? Or add some sparkle to that. And it will go in and add in some other bits and pieces that make it sound more like it's coming from me. And I can turn around and say, nope, I don't use those words. So you can take them out because that doesn't sound like me at all. And let's substitute them with these words. And so you have this back and forth conversation with AI to find your voice, to find that medium. And with I know with ChatGPT, I'm not sure about Perplexity and Gemini and the other one and the Grok, whether you can train them to your voice. But in ChatGPT, I actually have a GPT set up where I have put in all of the personality tests I've taken over the years. I have uploaded the results into ChatGPT, into a GPT, saying, here are my results for this one. Here's my results for this one. Here's my results for this one. I've kept them all over the years. There's one I didn't keep, and it was like one of the first ones I had. Oh, it wasn't really the first one I had to do. It was the first one I had to do where I saw the results. And it was kind of interesting because you had doves, peacocks, owls, and eagles. And I ended up smack bang in the middle. And because the instructor said, okay, count up how many you've got. And then if you've got this many, it's this. If you've got this if you've got an A, it's this, and B, A, B, C. And that will determine which bird you were. And so I turned around to him and I says, what happens when you have 4 equal, or 4 scores are equal? He goes, what do you mean? Well, they had 16 questions. And I just went through the 16 questions, answered them. And because I hate doing these things, but I answered them and it came out smack bang right in the middle. And he says, you can't be in the middle. He says, it's impossible to be in the middle. I says, I have got 4 for A, 4 for B, 4 for C, 4 for D. Where do I go? What do I do? So he came over and he had a look at the test and he asked my workmates, because we're doing this as a company exercise. He ended up asking my workmates, have I answered these questions correctly? What question? And he actually asked them, he says, okay, here's this question here. Here's the choices. What would you say Helen was? They all came up with the exact same answers that I had written down. And he was befuddled. He said, I have never, ever come across this. I said, well, your first mistake is that you have 4 categories and 16 questions. It is very easy if somebody's paying attention to answer those so that you get 4 equal portions. But of course, because he'd already tested the rest, those other in the room, he knew that those were my actual results. I said, so you need to make it an odd number and you need to make it so that no category can, you can have 2 or 3 matching categories, but you can't have all 4 matching. And so he says, that's really good feedback. He says, I'm going to have to go back to them about this. Troublemaker. This one's a troublemaker. Yeah, absolutely. And so he counted up how many of the other birds he had and then put me into dove, because the dove numbers needed to be boosted. And the dove is the calming, soothing person who doesn't like conflict. Peacock, which I wish he really put me in that one, was very airy fairy type of thing on their own planet. Very bold, vibrant, colorful. Owl was the wise one who looked at everything strategically. And then you had the eagle. What was the eagle? The eagle was the, they saw everything from a height and they could see where patterns were occurring and things like that. So they were the leadership. Eagle was leadership. Owl was more wisdom, strategic, that sort of thing. So it was very interesting learning this, but the dove was, and I had to play the dove. I had to play the cool, calm, collected one. So they came up to this thing where they asked what the brain was. And I said, and I just called out gray mushy stuff. It's always been, and when he says, what's the brain? I go, it's gray mushy stuff. And he just started laughing. And the woman next to me was actually a peacock. And she looks at me and goes, that's a very peacocky answer. And I said, well, I got some of that in me. So, I'm supposed to be being a dove. I said, I can't think of how to put that in a dove's term. So that was the end of that. Anyway, so I uploaded all these personality tests, the results into ChatGPT, and then threw in my assets. My assets are the skills the jobs I have had and the skills that I have learned in my lifetime and the experiences that I've had. So add in your personality things, add in your assets. And remember, assets are everything that you have learned things from through experience, through work, through education. You can put in there whatever degrees that you have, what you specialized in. You can put in there as well, like all the jobs that you've had and tasks that were involved with each role in your employment that you've had. If you're a business owner, what are your niche markets and things like that. So it gets a very good picture of you. And then you talk about some of your hobbies, the things that, favorite things. Talk about are you family orientated? Are you not family orientated? Are you married? Are you divorced? Are you single? Whatever. Put that in there so it gets an idea on who you are. So when you want to be able to ask a question, you can go in, and if you want it in your voice, you say, hey, can you write me an article about da 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 and whatever it is. And ChatGPT will look at all of this information that you've added in about you and get it very close to being your voice. You then go in, read it, edit it when it needs editing. And I will tell you this, from the ones that I have done through this GPT, there's times when I've gone back and said, this sounds absolutely nothing like me. Go back and read my information. This needs to sound more like me. It needs to have more, we need to add the sparkle in there. We need to make it more lively, more fun. This dull, boring thing is not who I am. And so you have these conversations with ChatGPT, and it learns. It makes extra, especially if you're doing it on GPT, it will go and add in extra information into the GPT for it to call on next time. And you can say, hey, we need it to go in this template every time we do if we do a podcast, and I want them to do the description for the YouTube channel, which is the description you see in this, and I have a specific format, it has to follow that format. And if it doesn't follow that format, I go back to and go, what happened to the template? And it comes back all apologetic. You are so right, Helen. It's like, I don't want to be told I'm right all the time. I just want it to come out correctly. So yes, you definitely have to have your input in there. You have to find that balance as to what's too much and what's not enough. That's your balance to find. Everybody's going to be different. Some people will say, well, how much should you rely on it? Probably about 50% of the time. Others are going to be 80%. Some are going to be 40%. It's up to you. It is as long as it's learning about who you are and how to put things in your way, that can help. But I would tell you this, ChatGPT and I have some great brainstorming sessions on some things. I was going, hey, I had this thought about blah, 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 blah. And I will write out my whole thing and then hit enter. And then like 2 minutes later, goes the screen as it comes back with its response to my response, along with some suggestions and ideas and things like that. And where I could improve different things. But, that's all part of the game. Remember, it matters because audience can feel when content lacks ownership or intent. You want to keep your ownership in there of the material, and you want to keep your intent in there. If you're based on your purpose or your goals, that needs to be evident and coming across in the stuff that you do. So your practical takeaway is to use AI to support an effort that you're doing, not replace your thinking. So if you're making an effort to do some brainstorming, you don't want it to replace your thinking. You want it to assist you and support you in the ideas that you're having. If you need help finding the right balance, send us a private message, and we're more than happy to assist you in finding the right balance between what's enough, what's too much, and what's not enough in there. So I just thought a car was pulling up in my driveway. It wasn't. It just carried on past. And in closing, AI supports your work. It will never replace your voice. Even no matter how much you train it, it will never replace your voice. You will still have input in what you need to do. So with that, we are out of here. Go out, have a super fantastic sparkling evening. And tomorrow evening, we'll be back at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Hei konera.